First contact and betrayal. The vast expanse of space had always called to humanity, a siren song of mystery and possibility. But on that fateful day in 2045, as the distress signal pierced through the void, no one could have imagined the chain of events it would set in motion. At Mission Control in Houston, Dr. Elena Rodriguez leaned forward, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Sir, you need to see this," she called out, her voice trembling with excitement and trepidation. Colonel Jack Harper strode across the room, his weathered face a mask of curiosity. "What have you got, Doctor?" Elena pointed to her screen, where an otherworldly pattern pulsed rhythmically. It's not one of ours, sir. The signal's origin is beyond our solar system." A hush fell over the room as the implications sank in. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe. Within hours, the world's leaders convened in an emergency session. The decision was unanimous. Earth would answer the call. The newly commissioned Starship Hope, a marvel of human engineering and the pride of the United Earth Space Agency, was dispatched to investigate. Aboard the Hope, Captain Maya Tanaka stood on the bridge, her heart racing with a mixture of anticipation and anxiety. After weeks of travel at speeds once thought impossible, they had finally reached the source of the signal. "My God," whispered her first officer, David Chen, as they approached the alien vessel. It was massive, easily dwarfing the Hope, its sleek design unlike anything humanity had ever conceived. "Open a channel," Maya ordered, her voice steady despite the gravity of the moment. "This is Captain Maya Tanaka of the Earth Ship Hope. We've received your distress signal and are here to render assistance." For a long moment, there was only silence. Then a response came, the alien words translated by the ship's advanced AI. "Greetings, people of Earth. We are the Zorka, and we are eternally grateful for your aid. Our ship has suffered catastrophic damage, and we seek refuge." The next few days were a flurry of activity as the crew of the Hope worked tirelessly to rescue the Zorka. The aliens were humanoid, with iridescent skin and large expressive eyes that seemed to hold the wisdom of millennia. They spoke of a distant homeworld, ravaged by a cosmic catastrophe, and of their long journey in search of a new beginning. Earth welcomed them with open arms. The arrival of the Zorka was hailed as the dawn of a new era, a chance for humanity to prove its compassion and to learn from an advanced civilization. But not everyone was convinced. Dr. Aisha Patel, the Hope's xenobiologist, couldn't shake a feeling of unease. "Something's not right," she confided to Maya late one night. "Their technology, their physiology, it all seems too perfect, too advanced for a refugee species." Maya frowned, considering Aisha's words. "What are you suggesting, Doctor?" "I'm not sure," Aisha admitted, "but I think we need to be cautious, very cautious." As it turned out, Aisha's instincts were right, but her warning came too late. 3 months after their arrival, on a day that would forever be etched in humanity's collective memory, the Zorka revealed their true nature. It began with a series of coordinated explosions in major cities across the globe. As panic spread, the skies darkened with the arrival of a vast armada, the true Zorka fleet. From the White House bunker, the President of the United States watched in horror as Washington, D.C. burned. "How?" she whispered, her face ashen. "How could we have been so blind?" The answer came in a global broadcast, the familiar face of the Zorka ambassador now twisted with cruel amusement. "People of Earth," he began, his voice dripping with condescension, "we thank you for your hospitality. Your compassion has been most useful. But now, the time for deception is over. Your world belongs to the Zorka Empire. Resistance is futile. Surrender, and you may yet have a place in our new order." As the transmission ended, the true scale of humanity's predicament became clear. The refugees they had so kindly taken in had been an advance force, gathering intelligence and sabotaging Earth's defenses from within. The weapons that might have given humanity a fighting chance were now useless, turned against their creators. In orbit, Captain Maya Tanaka, and the crew of the Hope found themselves in the heart of the storm. Battle stations. Maya yelled as enemy ships closed in. "We may be outgunned, but we're not going down without a fight." The Hope shuddered under the assault, but held together thanks to the skill of its crew and the strength of human engineering. As they fought, Maya's mind raced. They needed a plan, a way to strike back against an enemy that had outsmarted them at every turn. Little did Maya know, far below on the surface of the embattled Earth, the seeds of resistance were already taking root. In the chaos of the invasion's early hours, a young military officer named Sarah Chen was about to begin a journey that would change the course of the war, and perhaps the fate of humanity itself. As the first day of the invasion drew to a close, Earth stood on the brink. The Zorka's betrayal had struck deep, shaking humanity's faith in its own values. But in the face of this existential threat, a fire was kindling in the hearts of people around the world. The fight for Earth had only just begun, and humanity was about to show the galaxy what it was truly capable of. The fall of Earth's defenses. The dawn broke over a changed world. Smoke billowed from the ruins of once proud cities, and the skies churned with the ominous shapes of Zorka warships. Humanity's first line of defense had crumbled in a matter of hours, leaving Earth's population reeling from the sudden and brutal assault. In what remained of the Pentagon, General Marcus Briggs surveyed the holographic display of Earth with a grim expression. Red icons representing Zorka-controlled areas spread like a virus across the globe. "Status report," he barked, his voice hoarse from hours of issuing commands. A young lieutenant, her uniform stained with soot and sweat, stepped forward. "Sir, we've lost contact with most of our forces in Europe and Asia. The Zorka have established beachheads on every continent. Our satellite networks are down, and we're operating on emergency protocols." Briggs closed his eyes for a moment, the weight of the situation pressing down on him. When he opened them again, there was steel in his gaze. "What about Project Prometheus?" The lieutenant's eyes widened slightly. "Sir, are you sure? It's not been fully tested, and the risks—" "Lieutenant," Briggs cut her off. "The risks of not using everything at our disposal are far greater. Initiate Project Prometheus. It's time to show these alien bastards what humanity is made of." As the order went out, thousands of miles away, in a hidden facility deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, a team of scientists and engineers scrambled into action. Project Prometheus, a network of advanced eye-controlled combat drones, had been Earth's ace in the hole, a last-resort weapon system designed to operate even if human command structures were compromised. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the project's lead engineer and sister to Captain Maya Tanaka of the Hope, input the final activation codes with shaking hands. "May God forgive us," she whispered as she pressed the execute button. Across the globe, hidden hangars opened, and swarms of sleek, deadly drones took to the skies. They moved with uncanny precision, their artificial intelligence adapting to the Zorka tactics faster than any human pilot could. For a brief, shining moment, it seemed as though the tide might turn. The drones struck Zorka positions with surgical accuracy, downing enemy fighters and even managing to breach the defenses of one of their city-sized command ships. But the aliens' technological superiority soon became apparent. Strange, shimmering fields began to appear around Zorka vessels, absorbing the drones' attacks. Within hours, the AI controlling the drones reported a system-wide breakdown, its core programming corrupted by an invasive Zorka virus. Project Prometheus, humanity's last, best hope, had failed. As the realization of their defeat sank in, chaos erupted in cities around the world. Millions flooded from urban centers, clogging highways and overwhelming emergency services. In this maelstrom of fear and confusion, acts of both incredible heroism and deplorable selfishness played out on a global stage. In New York City, a group of firefighters worked tirelessly to rescue civilians trapped in the rubble of collapsed buildings, even as Zorka ships loomed overhead. In Moscow, Looters ran rampant through abandoned streets, adding human cruelty to the alien devastation. Amidst this chaos, in the ruins of San Francisco, Commander Sarah Chen of the U.S. Navy SEALs found herself leading a ragtag group of survivors. Chen, a decorated veteran at just 32, had been in the city for a routine training exercise when the invasion began. Now she was all that stood between a group of terrified civilians and the alien patrols that swept the city. "Keep low and stay quiet," Sarah whispered to the group as they crouched in the shadow of a partially collapsed office building. Her dark eyes scanned the street, alert for any sign of movement. Among the group, a young boy whimpered softly, and Sarah placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "It's going to be okay," she said, her voice firm with a conviction she didn't entirely feel. "We're going to make it through this." As they moved through the war-torn streets, Sarah's mind raced, analyzing their options. The nearby military bases had all gone dark, and the civilian infrastructure was in shambles. They needed a safe haven, somewhere they could regroup and maybe, just maybe, start to fight back. It was then that Sarah remembered an old Cold War-era bunker, supposedly decommissioned decades ago. If it still existed, it might provide the sanctuary they desperately needed. Leading her group through the city's underground tunnel system, carefully avoiding Zorka patrols, Sarah couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope. Humanity had been knocked down, yes, but they weren't out of the fight yet, not by a long shot. As they approached the bunker's hidden entrance, Sarah allowed herself a small smile. The aliens might have superior technology, but they didn't know the terrain like she did. They didn't have the human spirit, the indomitable will to survive against all odds. "All right, people," she said, turning to address the group as they filed into the bunker. "I know you're scared. I know it looks bad out there, but I promise you this. As long as there's breath in our bodies, we will not give up. We will not surrender. This is our home, and we're going to take it back." As Sarah spoke, she saw something change in the eyes of the survivors. Fear gave way to determination, despair to resolve. In that moment, in a forgotten bunker beneath a conquered city, the seeds of resistance took root. Little did Sarah know, similar scenes were playing out across the globe. In the face of overwhelming odds, humanity was rallying. The Zorka had won the first battle, but the war for Earth was far from over. In orbit, the battered but unbroken Hope continued its desperate fight. Captain Maya Tanaka, her bridge crew reduced to a handful of determined officers, executed a daring maneuver, using Earth's moon for cover as they struck at the Zorka fleet's supply lines. "We may be outnumbered," Maya declared, her voice steady even as her ship shuddered under enemy fire, "but we will never be outmatched." For Earth. As the Hope vanished back behind the moon's protective bulk, Maya allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection. She thought of her sister Yuki, somewhere on the surface below, and of all the billions of humans fighting for survival. A single tear slid down her cheek, but her resolve never wavered. The Zorka had made a grave mistake in underestimating humanity. They thought they had won, that Earth was theirs for the taking. But they were about to learn a harsh lesson. Humanity doesn't break. It bends, it adapts, and then it strikes back with a fury that would shake the stars themselves. As the second day of the invasion drew to a close, the situation looked bleak. But in hidden bunkers, in the rubble of fallen cities, and in the hearts of every human being, a fire was burning. The fight for Earth had only just begun, and humanity was about to show the galaxy what it was truly capable of. The birth of the resistance. The weeks following the initial Zorka assault were a blur of desperation and survival. Cities lay in ruins, governments had crumbled, and billions struggled to adapt to life under alien occupation. But even in humanity's darkest hour, hope refused to die. In the hidden bunker beneath San Francisco, Commander Sarah Chen had transformed a group of scared survivors into the nucleus of a burgeoning resistance movement. The old Cold War facility, once a relic of a bygone era, now hummed with activity as a beacon of human defiance. Sarah stood before a makeshift command center, studying a crudely drawn map of Zorka-controlled territories. Her second-in-command, a former tech entrepreneur named Alex Rivera, approached with a tablet in hand. "Commander," Alex said, his voice low but excited, "you need to see this. Dr. Emerson's team just made a breakthrough." Sarah's eyes widened as she scanned the report. "Are you sure about this?" she asked, hardly daring to believe it. Alex nodded emphatically. "They've run the tests multiple times. It's real." A spark of hope ignited in Sarah's chest. Dr. Lisa Emerson, a brilliant microbiologist who had been working around the clock since they'd established the bunker, had discovered something extraordinary. A common Earth bacteria, harmless to humans, appeared to have a devastating effect on Zorka physiology. "Get Dr. Emerson up here now," Sarah ordered, her mind racing with possibilities. "And contact our cells in other cities. We might finally have a weapon." As the resistance geared up for their first major offensive, halfway across the world, another pivotal discovery was being made. In the dense forests of Congo, Dr. Kwame Osai, a renowned climatologist, had noticed something peculiar. The Zorka ships seemed to be avoiding areas with high concentrations of a particular pollen. Further investigation revealed that the pollen interfered with their sensors and communication systems. Kwame's heart raced as he recorded his findings. This could change everything. He muttered to himself, glancing nervously at the sky. He needed to get this information to the resistance. But how? The answer came in the form of an unlikely ally. Jun Wang, a Chinese exchange student who had been interning with Kwame when the invasion hit, revealed a hidden talent. "I was a hacker back in Shanghai," Jun admitted sheepishly. "I think I can piggyback on the Zorka's own communication network to send a secure message." Together, Kwame and Jun worked tirelessly, using salvaged equipment to craft a makeshift transmitter. As Jun's fingers flew over the keyboard, weaving through alien encryption like a digital ghost, Kwame held his breath. This was their one shot. Thousands of miles away, in Sarah Chen's bunker, a console suddenly crackled to life. Alex's eyes widened as he decrypted the message. "Commander," he called out, "you're going to want to hear this." As Sarah absorbed the information from Congo, her mind whirled with new strategies. They now had two potential weapons against the Zorka, a bacteria that could harm them directly, and a pollen that could disrupt their technology. It was time to go on the offensive. Over the next few days, resistance cells around the world sprang into action. In Brazil, farmers began cultivating the pollen-producing plants on a massive scale. In India, microbiologists worked around the clock to weaponize the bacteria. And in every occupied city, brave individuals prepared to strike back at their oppressors. The first major attack came in the heart of occupied Tokyo. Resistance fighters, armed with crude but effective bacterial weapons, struck at a Zorka command post. The aliens, caught completely off guard, fell quickly. For the first time since the invasion, a human flag flew over liberated territory. As news of the victory spread through hidden resistance channels, a fire of hope swept across the globe. Humanity had landed its first significant blow against the invaders. But the Zorka were far from defeated. As reports of the attack reached the alien high command, General Zaxlor, the architect of the Earth invasion, flew into a rage. "Impossible," he roared, his iridescent skin flashing dangerous colors. "These primitives dare to challenge us. They will learn the price of defiance." Zaxlor's retaliation was swift and brutal. Entire city blocks were vaporized in occupied zones as the aliens searched for resistance strongholds. But their heavy-handed tactics only served to fuel the fires of human rebellion. Back in San Francisco, Sarah Chen watched the global feeds with a mixture of pride and concern. They had bloodied the Zorka's nose, yes, but at a terrible cost. The Resistance's victory had come at the price of countless innocent lives. "We need to be smarter," Sarah mused, addressing her core team. "We can't match them in open combat, but we can outsmart them." Humanity's greatest strength has always been our adaptability, our creativity. It's time we use that to our advantage. Dr. Lisa Emerson spoke up, her eyes bright with a new idea. What if we could combine our two weapons? Use the pollen to disrupt their systems, then hit them with the bacteria when they're vulnerable. A slow smile spread across Sarah's face. Dr. Emerson, I think you've just outlined our new strategy. As the resistance geared up for a coordinated global assault, up in orbit, the crew of the Hope continued their guerrilla war against the Zorka fleet. Captain Maya Tanaka had become a thorn in the alien side, using hit-and-run tactics to disrupt their operations and gather crucial intelligence. During one daring raid on a Zorka communications hub, Maya's team discovered something that chilled them to the bone. The Zorka weren't just invading Earth, they were terraforming it, slowly altering the planet's atmosphere to better suit their own physiology. We're running out of time, Maya realized, her heart heavy with the implications. She knew she had to get this information to the surface resistance. But how? The answer came in the form of a risky plan. Using the intel they'd gathered, the Hope would attempt to breach the Zorka's orbital defenses and make a dangerous atmospheric insertion. It was a one-way trip. There would be no way for the ship to reach escape velocity again. But it was their only choice. As the Hope prepared for its final mission, Maya recorded a message for her sister Yuki, unsure if she'd ever see her again. "Keep fighting," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "No matter what happens, never give up. Earth is counting on all of us." With a deep breath, Maya gave the order. The Hope plunged towards Earth, its hull glowing red-hot as it tore through the atmosphere. Zorka fighters swarmed around them, but the human ship's advanced stealth technology, combined with Maya's piloting skills, kept them just out of reach. As the Hope streaked across the sky like a meteor, resistance members around the world looked up in awe. To many, it seemed like a sign. Humanity fighting back against impossible odds, refusing to go quietly into the night. The ship crash-landed in the Australian outback, its crew battered but alive. As Maya emerged from the wreckage, she was met by a group of resistance fighters led by an Aboriginal elder. "Welcome home, Sky Warrior," the elder said with a knowing smile. "We've been expecting you." As Maya shared the crucial information about the Zorka's terraforming plans, a new sense of urgency swept through the global resistance. The fight for Earth had entered a new phase, and humanity's back was against the wall. But as the sun set on another day of occupation, there was a palpable change in the air. In hidden bunkers, ruined cities, and remote wilderness camps, humans from all walks of life came together, united in their determination to reclaim their world. The Zorka had unleashed the full might of their advanced civilization against Earth, expecting a swift victory. Instead, they found themselves embroiled in a bitter struggle against an enemy that refused to break, that grew stronger with each step back. As Sarah Chen finalized plans for the Resistance's global counteroffensive, she allowed herself a moment of reflection. The road ahead would be hard, the casualties high. But looking at the determined faces around her, Sarah felt a surge of pride. This was humanity at its best, resilient, creative, and unbreakable. "Tomorrow," she announced to her team, her voice ringing with conviction, "we take back our planet. For Earth." The cheer that erupted from the bunker was echoed in resistance strongholds around the world. The battle for Earth was far from over, but for the first time since the invasion began, the tide was beginning to turn. Humanity was rising, and the Zorka were about to learn just how dangerous a cornered species could be. Counterattack and alien desperation. The dawn broke on what would later be known as D-Day, Defiance Day. Across the globe, resistance cells moved into position, ready to launch humanity's most daring offensive, yet against the Zorka occupiers. In San Francisco, Commander Sarah Chen stood before her assembled forces, a mix of hardened fighters and civilian volunteers. Her eyes blazed with determination as she addressed them. "Today, we fight not just for our lives, but for our very existence as a species." Sarah's voice rang out, clear and strong. The Zorka thought they could break us, subjugate us, but they've never faced anything like humanity before. We are resilient, we are resourceful, and today we show them we are relentless. A roar of approval went up from the crowd. Similar scenes played out in resistance strongholds around the world. In the Australian outback, Captain Maya Tanaka and her crew from the Hope joined forces with local resistance fighters. In the Congo, Dr. Kwame Osei and Jun Wong prepared to unleash their pollen weapon on a massive scale. As the coordinated attack began, the Zorka were caught off guard by the sheer audacity and scale of the human offensive. In New York, resistance fighters used the pollen to disrupt Zorka communications before launching a surprise attack on their main garrison. In Moscow, a team of scientists and soldiers infiltrated a Zorka research facility, stealing crucial data on their terraforming technology. But it was in Tokyo where the most dramatic battle unfolded. Sarah Chen, leading a joint task force of American and Japanese resistance fighters, staged an all-out assault on the Zorka's primary Earth command center. The battle was fierce. Zorka energy weapons lit up the sky, while human fighters retaliated with a combination of conventional arms and their new biological weapons. The streets of Tokyo became a war zone, with every block contested in brutal urban combat. Sarah's voice crackled over the comm as she led the charge. "Push forward. We've got them on the run." And indeed, for the first time since the invasion, the Zorka were retreating. The combination of the pollen disrupting their systems and the bacteria wreaking havoc on their troops had thrown their usually impeccable battle coordination into chaos. As news of the human successes spread, more and more people joined the fight. In occupied territories, civilians rose up against their alien oppressors, armed with little more than courage and improvised weapons. High above the earth, in the Zorka flagship, General Zaxlor watched the unfolding chaos with growing rage and disbelief. "Impossible," he snarled, his skin flashing dangerous shades of red and purple. "How are these primitives doing this? Where did they get these weapons?" His second-in-command, Sub-Commander Vexna, approached cautiously. "General, our forces are reporting widespread system failures. This pollen, it's everywhere. And there's some kind of biological agent that's decimating our ground troops." Zaxlor's eyes narrowed. "Biological agent? Are you telling me these humans are using some kind of plague against us?" Vexna nodded grimly. "It appears so, sir. Our medical teams are working on a countermeasure, but nothing." Zaxlor roared. "I want these humans crushed. Use the planet burners if you have to." Vexna's eyes widened in shock. "But sir, the planet burners would render Earth uninhabitable. Our whole reason for invading was to claim this world for our own." Zaxlor turned on his subordinate, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "And what good is a habitable planet if we're all dead? Activate the planet burners. Now." As Vexna reluctantly moved to carry out the order, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. On the main view screen, a swarm of small craft appeared, emerging from Earth's atmosphere. "What now?" Zaxlor demanded. "Sir," a technician called out, It's the humans. They've adapted some of our own fighter technology. They're attacking the fleet." Indeed, resistance engineers, working with data stolen from Zorka facilities and combined with salvaged alien tech, had managed to retrofit a squadron of ships. Led by Maya Tanaka, these hybrid fighters now engage the Zorka fleet in Earth orbit. Maya's voice crackled over the comms to her squadron. "Remember your training. Use the pollen canisters to disrupt their systems, then hit them hard." The battle in space was as fierce as the one on the ground. Human pilots, though outnumbered and flying unfamiliar craft, fought with a desperation and creativity that caught the Zorka off guard. Back on Earth, Sarah Chen's forces had finally breached the Zorka command center in Tokyo. As they fought their way through alien defenders, Sarah spotted something that made her blood run cold, a holographic display showing the Zorka's planet burner weapons powering up. "Maya," Sarah shouted into her comm, They're going to try to scorch the earth. You have to take out those weapons. In her fighter, Maya gritted her teeth. Understood. All units, new primary target. We have to disable those planet burners at all costs. The space battle shifted, with the human fighters now making suicide runs against the massive Zorka weapons platforms. Explosions blossomed in the void as ship after ship, both human and Zorka, were destroyed. On the ground, Sarah's team finally fought their way to the central control room. As the doors slid open, they found themselves face to face with General Zaxlor himself. The Zorka commander's eyes blazed with hatred as he raised his weapon. "You primitives," he snarled. "Look at what you've done. We offered you a place in our empire, and this is how you repay us." Sarah stood her ground, her own weapon trained on the alien general. "We never wanted a place in your empire," she replied, her voice steady. "We just wanted to live free on our own world. You should have left us alone." For a moment, the two leaders stood at an impasse, the fate of two species hanging in the balance. Then suddenly, the room shook as a massive explosion rocked the building. In orbit, Maya's squadron had succeeded in their desperate mission. The Zorka planet burners erupted in a series of cataclysmic explosions, taking a significant portion of the alien fleet with them. As alarms blare and systems failed around him, Zaxlor realized the tide had turned. With a snarl of defiance, he lunged at Sarah, determined to take at least one human with him. But Sarah was ready. In a move that combined her military training with pure human instinct, she sidestepped the alien's attack and brought her weapon to bear. A single shot rang out, and General Zaxlor, the architect of Earth's invasion, fell. As the Zorka commander lay dying, Sarah knelt beside him. "It's over," she said softly. "Call off your forces. End this war." Zaxlor looked up at her, his alien eyes filled with a mix of hatred and something else, perhaps a grudging respect. With his last breath, he activated his comm. "This is General Zaxlor. Initiate Protocol Omega." Throughout Earth and in orbit, Zorka forces suddenly began to retreat. Ships jumped to hyperspace. Ground units fell back to predetermined extraction points. The invasion that had nearly broken humanity was coming to an end. As the realization of victory began to sink in, cheers erupted from resistance fighters and civilians alike. In cities around the world, people emerged from hiding to see Zorka ships fleeing the skies. Sarah Chen stood atop the captured Zorka command center, looking out over the battered but unbroken city of Tokyo. Maya Tanaka's voice crackled over her comm. "Ground command, this is orbital defense. The skies are clear. I repeat, the skies are clear. We've won." Tears streamed down Sarah's face as she replied, "Copy that. Orbital defense. Well done. Well done to all of us." As the sun set on the first day of Earth's freedom, bonfires were lit in cities and villages around the world. The cost had been high, millions dead, great swaths of the planet devastated. But humanity had survived. More than that, they had triumphed against an enemy that by all rights should have crushed them. In the coming days, there would be time to mourn, to rebuild, to look to the stars with new eyes. But for now, for this one moment, the people of Earth celebrated their victory, their survival, and the unbreakable spirit that had seen them through their darkest hour. The Zorka had come to conquer a primitive world. They left humbled, having learned a harsh lesson. Never underestimate the power of human resilience, ingenuity, and the sheer indomitable will to survive. The final battle and humanity's triumph. The days following the Zorka retreat were a blur of jubilation, sorrow, and frantic activity. As the dust settled on battlefields around the world, humanity began to take stock of what had been lost and what had been gained. In what remained of the United Nations headquarters in Geneva, a gathering unlike any in human history was taking place. Leaders from every nation, resistance commanders, and key figures in the fight against the Zorka had come together to chart humanity's course forward. Commander Sarah Chen, now hailed as one of the heroes of the resistance, stood at the podium, her voice carrying to every corner of the globe via hastily repaired communication networks. We stand here today, not as separate nations, but as one people, the people of Earth. Sarah began, her eyes scanning the diverse crowd before her. The Zorka came to conquer us, to break us. Instead, they united us in ways we never thought possible. We have paid a terrible price for our freedom, but we have also gained something priceless, the knowledge that together we can overcome any obstacle, any threat. As Sarah spoke, screens around the world showed scenes of reconstruction. In London, people worked side by side to clear rubble and rebuild homes. In Rio de Janeiro, scientists pored over captured Zorka technology, unlocking secrets that promised to revolutionize human understanding of the universe. But our work is not done, Sarah continued, her tone growing serious. The Zorka have retreated, but they are not defeated. We must prepare for the possibility of their return, and for other threats that may lurk among the stars. To do this, we must put aside our old rivalries and prejudices. The boundaries that once divided us mean nothing in the face of what we now know exists beyond our world. In orbit, Captain Maya Tanaka listened to the broadcast from the bridge of the Phoenix, Earth's first true interstellar warship. Built from a combination of salvage Zorka technology and human innovation, the Phoenix represented humanity's determination to take its place among the stars. We have learned much from this ordeal, Maya mused to her crew, a mix of veteran resistance fighters and bright young minds from around the world. But perhaps the most important lesson is this: we are stronger together than we ever were apart. Back in Geneva, Sarah was concluding her speech. Today, we announced the formation of the Earth Defense Force. This multinational organization will be responsible for protecting our planet, advancing our technology, and eventually taking humanity to the stars. But we will not go as conquerors. We will go as explorers, as diplomats, carrying with us the hard-won wisdom of our recent trials. As Sarah stepped down from the podium, the assembly erupted in applause. Dr. Lisa Emerson, whose work on the bacterial weapon had been crucial to the resistance's success, approached her with tears in her eyes. "We did it, Sarah," Lisa said, embracing her friend. "We actually did it." Sarah returned the hug, allowing herself a moment of pure relief. "We all did it, Lisa. Every single person who refused to give up, who kept fighting even when all seemed lost. This victory belongs to all of humanity." In the following months, the changes on Earth were nothing short of revolutionary. Old conflicts were set aside as nations pooled their resources to rebuild and advance. The technology salvaged from the Zorka, combined with the ingenuity that had allowed humanity to defeat them, led to breakthroughs in medicine, energy production, and space travel. 1 year to the day after the Zorka retreat, humanity achieved another milestone. The Phoenix, under Captain Maya Tanaka's command, was ready for its maiden voyage. As the ship prepared to depart from the newly constructed orbital shipyard, Maya addressed her crew and, by extension, the people of Earth. "A year ago, we fought to survive, to reclaim our world from those who would take it from us," Maya said, her voice steady and confident. "Today, we set out not in fear, but in hope. We carry with us the indomitable spirit that saw us through our darkest hour, and the unity that was forged in the crucible of invasion." As the Phoenix's engines flared to life, billions watched from Earth and from stations throughout the solar system. The ship represented more than just technological achievement. It was a symbol of humanity's resilience, adaptability, and unwavering determination to forge its own destiny among the stars. In her office in the Earth Defense Force headquarters, Sarah Chen watched the launch with a mixture of pride and trepidation. On her desk lay reports of possible Zorka activity at the edges of the solar system, reminders that the threat was not entirely gone. But as she watched the Phoenix disappear into the vastness of space, Sarah felt a surge of confidence. Whatever challenges lay ahead, humanity would face them together, armed with the knowledge of what they could achieve when united. The Zorka invasion had been meant to subjugate Earth, to add another conquest to their vast empire. Instead, it had awakened a sleeping giant. Humanity had not only survived, but had emerged stronger, more united, and with an unshakable determination to forge its own path among the stars. As night fell on Earth, people gathered in cities and villages, in the rebuilt metropolises, and in the new settlements that had sprung up in the wake of the war. They looked up at the sky, no longer with fear of what might come from above, but with hope and curiosity about what they might find out there. The story of humanity's defiance, of Earth's unyielding spirit, spread across the galaxy. To some, it was a warning, a cautionary tale about underestimating a seemingly primitive species. To others, it was an inspiration, a testament to the power of unity, ingenuity, and the will to survive. And to humanity itself, it was a reminder that in their darkest hour, they had discovered their greatest strength, that when faced with extinction, they had chosen to fight, to adapt, to overcome. It was a reminder that no matter what the universe might throw at them, they would face it together. As the Phoenix ventured into the unknown, carrying with it the hopes and dreams of an entire planet, one thing was certain: humanity's story was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. The stars awaited, and humanity, battle-tested and united, was ready to meet them.